Good morning. Welcome back, first graders. Today is April 1st, 2020. Welcome to April. We're continuing Unit 3, Lesson 15, and today we are going to be doing grammar. Verbs. Okay, so usually we refer in class to verbs as action words. But they're not always actions. There are verbs that are not actions. We've talked about that, but we haven't really studied it. So today we are going to be talking about the verb to be. Now, the verb to be is, I feel like I'm out a little. Yes. The verb to be is, if we are using it in the singular form, which means the subject or the person or thing or animal that we're talking about is one person, thing, or animal, right? Singular. Then we use the word is. So let me move myself out of the way. We use is with singular subject. So she is a girl. Let's all read these. Let's all read these together. She is a girl. Good. He is hungry, right? She and he are singular subjects, so we use is. The cat is black. The dog is dirty, right? Now, is present tense, so it's telling us about what's happening right now. What happens, what do we use if the subject is plural? So instead of she is a girl, like what if I wanted to talk about Eliana and Elise? I can't say she is a girl because there are two of them, right? So in that case, we use, hold on here. In that case, we use are with plural subjects. So we would say, okay, so we would say they are girls. Right? If we want to talk about Elise and Eliana, if we only want to talk about one of them, she is a girl. The boys are hungry, right? If we want to talk about Oliver, Xavier, and Jaden. The cats are black. And the dogs are dirty. Okay, so we use are for plural. Now, that is talking about what's going on right now. The dogs are dirty. I see them. I'm looking at them, and they're dirty, right? The cats are black. I see them. That's their color. Now, what about if we're telling you something that happened yesterday, right? And the dog is not dirty anymore. What would we use? Okay, so to be in the past tense, meaning it happened already, we use was with singular subject. So she was at home. He was hungry. The cat was scared. The dog was dirty. We use for plural subject in the past, we use were. The girls were at home. The boys were hungry. The cats were scared. The dogs were dirty. All right. Now let's talk about adjectives. So we covered verbs a little bit. Let's talk about adjectives. Everybody tell me, what is an adjective? What is an adjective? I want to hear you. Say it out loud. What is an adjective? An adjective is a describing word. So adjectives are words that describe nouns or pronouns. Some examples. Let's read them together. Everybody read them. Let's use green this time with me. Short, tall, happy. Are you guys saying them out loud? I hope so. Let me hear you. Sad, big, small, funny, hungry, angry, young, old, smart, green, round, itchy, soggy, hard, soft, and light. So those are all adjectives. They all describe a noun or a pronoun. Okay, so next I want you to listen to a short song about adjectives. And I want you to listen for all the adjectives that you can. And also listen for when they compare two adjectives, okay? I'll be right back.
As your body grows bigger,
your mind must power.
It's great to learn,
'cause knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rocket, the tip off the block of your favorite schoolhouse rock. To begin our show, unpack your adjectives.
Got home from camping last spring. Saw people, places, and things. We barely had arrived. Friends asked us to describe the people, places, and every last thing. So we unpacked our adjectives. I unpacked frustrating first. Reached in and found the word worst. Then I picked soggy and next I picked froggy and then I was ready to tell them my tale. 'Cause I'd unpacked my adjectives. Adjectives are words you use to really describe things. Handy words to carry around. Days are sunny or they're rainy. Boys are dumb or else they're brainy. Adjectives can show you which way. Adjectives are often used to help us compare things. To say how thin, how fat, how short, how tall. Girls who are tall get taller. Boys who are small get smaller. Till one is the tallest and other's the smallest of all. We hiked along without care. Then we ran into a bear. He was a hairy bear. He was a scary bear. We beat a hasty retreat from his lair. And described him with adjectives.
Whoa! Boy, that was one big ugly bear.
Next time you go on a trip, remember this little tip. The minute you get back, they'll ask you this and that. You can describe people, places, and things. Simply unpack your adjectives. You can do it with adjectives. Tell about it with adjectives. You can shout it with adjectives.
All right, so you heard a lot of adjectives in that song. Now I want to talk about, there was something where there was a girl who was taller and the boy who was smaller, right? That was the comparison that I'm talking about. So I want to talk about the suffixes today, er and est. We use the suffix er, to compare two things when we're talking about adjectives. So for instance, let's read this one together here. It says, he is taller than his brother, right? So when we want to compare two things, it's called a comparative, a comparative adjective because it's an adjective. It describes something tall, and it's comparative. It compares two things. He is taller than his brother. So we always use er at the end of the adjective and then the word than, not then, but than, T-H-A-N. Next sentence, the dog is louder than the cat, right? We're comparing two things. What two things are we comparing? The dog and the cat, right? And we're comparing how loud they are. Now, the next thing is est. We use est, the suffix est, after an adjective when we are comparing more than two things. Okay, so we use the and then the suffix est to compare more than two things. This is called a superlative. These are big words. You don't really have to know them, but I'm telling you so you've heard them. This is a superlative. So he is the tallest in his class. That means we're comparing more than two things, and he is the tallest, that adjective, of all of them. Next one, the dog is the loudest animal on the block. So again, we use the with est at the end of the adjective loud. So we know that there are more than 2 dogs on the block. Last thing I want to talk about, there were actually a lot of these in the song. All right, so what happens when we have an adjective that ends in the word y and we want to make it a comparative or superlative by adding or est to the end of it? Well, we do the same thing that we do, like we talked about a week or two ago, when we add es or ed to the end of a word. So there were a lot of adjectives in that song that ended with the letter y. So I pulled a few of them out of the song and put them in here. So one was soggy, right? Soggy. If we want to add er and say, oh, this was soggier than that, we change the y to an I and add er. This one is soggy. The second one is soggier than the first one, but the third one is the soggiest of all. So in both of those, we change the y to an I and then add er or est. What about muddy? That dog was muddy. But the other dog was muddier than the first dog. And the third dog was the muddiest of all. Funny. That clown was funny. But my uncle is funnier than that clown. Ooh, my grandpa, now he's the funniest man I know. Pretty. That doll is pretty. I think I saw a doll in the store that's even prettier than this one. The prettiest doll I've ever seen is my very own. Dusty. So if we want to, let's say, those books were really dusty, but my toy train was dustier than the books. And the dustiest thing of all was my bike. Okay, so in all of these cases, for when we add er or est, we have to change the y to an I and add er or est to compare. Okay, so you have 3 worksheets, and I think it's 4 workbook pages to do. All of it is very short. It won't take you long at all. And on this page, you just have to fill in the proper form of the verb to be. These are going to be in present tense because we're looking at what's happening right now. It's telling us about the current situation. So you will write is or are in each sentence. Next, you're going to use was and were to tell about the past. So it says use was to talk about one noun, use were to talk about 2 or more nouns. All right, so you make up your own sentence. Remember, capital letter in the beginning, finger spaces, and periods, write nice and neatly. And finally, a suffix is added to the end of a word to change the meaning. We talked about that last week. Prefix goes before, suffix goes after. These suffix endings are er and est. So you are just going to rewrite these. Small would become smaller and smallest. Okay, fill in the chart, and then check your instructions for which workbook pages to complete. Okay, but they all have to do with grammar and suffixes. Okay, so I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.